Pledge of Allegiance, if you'll join me, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item on this evening's agenda is the consent agenda. I trust the commissioners have had an opportunity to read and review it.
I'd move for approval.
Thank you. We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion carries. Next, first item of our regular agenda is to receive a year-end report on the city's strategic plan. And Daniela had stepped out for a moment. Do we want to rearrange that a bit, or?
She went to get her laptop.
So. Do, 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 do. Name that tune. Awesome. Tag, you're it. No worries.
Okay. Good evening again. I will be presenting tonight with the help of Rebecca, our 2021 to 2025 update to our year-end update in relation to our strategic plan. Okay, so just as a reminder, earlier this year we revisited our strategic plan and we kind of teed up some of the language as far as our vision statement. And we ended up with a vision statement that included 3 pillars. That we will work towards creating a thriving community, that we will have worked towards an expanded tax base, and I think maybe that language was a little updated, and that the city organization will provide trustworthy service.
And as a quick reminder to everybody, this was, most of 2024 was still on the old strategic
Gotcha.
plan.
Thank
So some of the verbiage in here is that older verbiage because the new strategic plan doesn't take place until this month. So
you, Rebecca.
we're still going back and editing some things, reviewing those things.
Okay. Some of the achievements that we accomplished in this past year were, firstly, we updated the strategic plan. And the strategic plan is a 2-year plan, which kicked off at the beginning of this year. Actually, we started working on it late last year. And I hope you keep a copy with you because we do plan on updating you quarterly on that plan. We began sort of a staff retention and hiring effort, which includes a kickoff with our compensation and classification study, which we're currently working on with McGrath. It's going just as planned. It's going pretty great. Staff are working on filling position questionnaires that let McGrath know whether or not their job description and pay fall in line with what it is that they're actually doing. So I began a year ago last week, actually. So I made it through a year. Study, increased community marketing. Our director of communications is a very skilled individual, and she put together this incredible marketing plan for Choose Newton, the Choose Newton marketing plan, which has many avenues that include an increased effort of marketing the city of Newton. They include things like television ads. I'm trying to think of things off the top of my head.
It's multifaceted, and it really falls into a few categories, including print media, digital media, and engagement. We have a lot of working with people really in a face-to-face methodology, so we're really excited to roll that out. And as you might remember, the Choose Newton brand really encompasses multiple things. Instead of just being a city that's about the kind of enforcement and public health and human safety, the Choose Newton brand is really selling us as that place to work, love, live, play, and do business. And so that includes our CBB efforts, our Main Street efforts, and a lot of our development efforts as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. And we completed a resurvey of our historic downtown, which was headed up by Rebecca through a grant that was successful. And also she came and presented to the commission not that long ago. So,
To the Planning Commission, true.
yes. Our city commission strategic plan was adopted originally in 2021. It includes priority initiatives identified in surveys, plans, and a lot of documents that we have, which some of them we are updating, including a comprehensive plan, I believe a housing plan. There are some items that we will be working on this year. And there are 4 strategic overarching goals, and they include increasing the tax base and growing the community as a number 1, increasing housing stock, including housing stock of all sizes and costs. That will help us get more commercial, industrial, and grow just our tax base. Now, I will say that the housing study might help with sort of the grant side or applying for things like MIH or RHID, whatever it may be. But the housing study is something that we put on the top of our list. Number 3 is increasing amenities to improve quality of life. And number 4 is to improve maintain and improve our infrastructure. And that would be normally through our budget and our policy process. The 2020 Newton Community Survey, the action plan, I'm going to actually defer to Rebecca to talk a little bit about this.
Not a problem. So you've seen a lot of these slides before as we bring them to you annually, but this is kind of the last year, though, that you're going to see this because we're moving into a new strategic plan. So this is just a quick reminder of what came about in that community survey. And I know it was during COVID, and seems like a long time ago now, but the exciting part about what's in here is that these are all the things that got done. These are all the successes and all the wins that you all as the governing body, this organization, and this community have had, attracting more small businesses, adding the dining and shopping and entertainment. We always have more room to grow, but we've seen some really exciting ribbon cuttings. We've been working on rehabbing existing homes. We've been tons and tons of infrastructure improvements, developing the downtown. You've all seen quite a lot of reinvestment in that through various different means, whether it's those facade improvement grants that you helped award last year or some of the other investments that's happening. Have those new park enhancements. We continue to want to invest in our bike and walking trails, the pool improvements that you have to go to, a lot of debt payoff, the new library, of course, and then those athletic fields. So all of these things that the community asked for just a few short years ago, you've been able to show as great accomplishments. So I just had to keep that in there. I'm going to go ahead and go through a couple of these just because I got the mouse, but Danielle obviously can jump in, but just a real quick high level, you hear about these things, but just to make sure we keep talking about those accomplishments is in that economic development, and we're still looking forward to the Amtrak flyer extension. Of course, GF Materials, this is probably the biggest thing to hit Kansas in quite a number of years, and to be the new home of such a great investment is quite a point of pride. Of course, we have Hillsborough and CD Customs, and there's many, many more, but these are really some shining stars in the past year, if not the past 3 to 5 years. Of course, we've got a lot of new local businesses and our current growth. These are really great to show that, you know, everybody here can make this as a place to do their business. Housing stock, this is where the numbers really, really come to shine, where you see that jump from 29 to over 100. And I think by the end, this was a year to date, and I think we ended up a little bit higher than this by the end. But pretty much a 4-fold increase in rooms added, and doors added to the community. The city manager was just telling me today that new housing growth spurs new housing growth. And that's really what a lot of our industrial prospects are looking for, is where can their employees live? And so this is quite a testament to a lot of hard decisions and a lot of really great policy that you've all been able to put forward to see that wonderful, wonderful spike in new housing starts. We're breaking them down again. This was a point in time, was not quite at the year end, and we had 13 single family, 58 duplex, 27 triplex, and 11 apartments that were broken down, and there ended up being a couple more that came in quite right at the end. But We have another hundreds, quite literally hundreds in the planning. For the amenities and quality of life, we've had some really exciting ones. And of course, the biggest one was being the host of the U.S. Adaptive and having that library grand opening. We also had all the turf replacement. So lots more things coming, but just some things we wanted to highlight very quickly for you all. Lots and lots of infrastructure. Danielle, I don't know if you wanted to tackle some of these really exciting pieces here, but
Sure. Our water tanks, of course, a huge project, which is not 100% complete yet, but has been successful through the leadership of our great Suzanne. Lead and copper rule inventory was completed with the efforts of our utility superintendent, Ed Bonham. Our new police training building, which is not quite yet complete. It's still in the works, but it will be complete by the end of this year. Other infrastructure improvements, the K-15 mill and overlay, Phase 2, South Spencer, and the SS4A, which is still in the planning process. I mean, we're not there yet, but these are definitely projects that were either completed or on the cusp of being completed or being worked on. To wrap it up, the 2025 priority projects are.
we got one more in
Yep,
programs funded.
Did I miss one? Okay. Some of the programs we funded include the sidewalk rebate program, 37 applications with an average of $663 for a total of $25,000. The paint and gutter rebate, we had 10 applications totaling almost $14,000. And the facade improvement, which was a new program funded by the Newton Main Street. We had a budget of $30,000 and we approved 12 grants. 5 of those were finalized by the end of the year, and the investment, it was $49,000. So that was very much a success. Did you have any waiting? Did we have any waiting?
We do. We do have 4 waiting. The Main Street Board will be taking this for another request and probably coming to you very shortly for a refund. So this body has funded this program last year at $30,000. They awarded pretty much a max of $3,000 per. Went ahead and split one over 2 properties that had the same ownership, which is how we got a couple extras kind of in there that were a little smaller, trying to spread the love as much as possible. But yes, we already have a waiting list. We had a waiting list right away. There's still some that are waiting for the weather to warm up to finish, and we've got a couple that have had receipts that they need to kind of close out their project. But it's been an absolute stunning success.
So it's a total of 79,000?
So the finalized grants that we have to date, the 5 that have finalized, they had $49,000 of private investment.
So 30 of our money and 49 of theirs.
Right, but there's substantially more still out there that
okay.
we'll see a higher amount of private investment because we required them to have at least a 2-to-1 match.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and you'll see that again with the paint and gutter repair that we paid out a little bit over $6,000, but we were able to get back about 13 and a half. So we're seeing quite a lot of private investment matching the public commitment to help revitalize and rehabilitate the community. And then there's your 2025s.
Okay, there we go. Here now, we'll wrap it up. The 2025 priority projects are based on the 2025-2026 strategic plan, which you approved just 3 or 4 months ago. And they include a continuous, actually, hotel recruitment by our community development director, and I believe he's going strong on trying to get us another hotel. Concentrating on rehabilitating even our older housing stock through different efforts, implementing succession plans for our key staff. That is something that has already kicked off through lots of conversations. We plan on formalizing that as soon as we finish the classification and compensation study. Update our city commission policies, which we did tonight. Launch a new website, which I don't believe has it been launched, Aaron? Our new website? Not yet. Aaron has been working on it. It's a huge endeavor, and that we hope to launch that later this year. Okay. Adopt a new economic development policy, which we also heard a draft tonight. Implement the Choose Newton marketing plan. Continue to develop the Main Street program. Maintain a responsible fiscal position, which I think we did a great job last year, and we hope that assessed valuation continues to increase so that we can keep the mill levy as steady as possible. And lastly, pursue partnerships to grow. I'd even remove the recreational, but to grow any opportunity within the community. So those are some of the highlights. I'll stand for any questions, thoughts, ideas. We really do hope and plan to touch on these goals and these more strategic, higher level plans more on a quarterly basis. So we're keeping in line with them to make sure that we're in line to getting them accomplished. So if you have anything else, let me know. But if not, then go on to the next item.
Anything? Thank you, Daniela.
Yep.
Thank you, Rebecca. Staff. Next item is to consider a proposal for support of Harvest Pointe Phase II request for fee waivers in support of IRB. Rebecca?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I believe we have Byron Adrian here with us tonight. I'm going to go over a real quick thing, but if you want to go ahead and come to the podium so that we can answer any questions. I'm going to give a little bit of background on this project. You might remember that in 2023 and in 2024, Byron has come to you all on behalf of Mennonite Housing to support their low-income senior housing project that's at First and Boyd. The first phase has been complete with 32 units, I believe.
Yes.
And you'll see that here in the image on the screen where it says Lot 2, Phase 1. That's the portion that has been completed. In his previous request, it had been to ask for a $20,000 worth of fee waivers that gets added to points in the Kansan Housing Resources Corporation's application for low-income housing tax credits. In your packet, there's a selection criteria, which he was able to show us how they calculate those points. Last year when he came to this body, he did note that the requirements for that match to gain those same number of points had increased to $80,000. And that's what we have before you today is a request for that $80,000 of fee waivers. And it serves as a kind of a matching piece to this low-income housing tax credit. He's also asking for support of the sales tax exemption through the industrial revenue bond process. That would, again, add some more points to the project and remove a little bit. So is there some? Turn it over to you to explain the project some more or answer any other questions.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, Commission, for the opportunity to talk to you about another phase at Harvest Pointe. I do want to take a quick minute here and do an update on some changes that have taken place at Mennonite Housing. I recently actually retired as president of Mennonite Housing, and Angie Mendoza is now the new president of Mennonite Housing. Part of my retirement plan is to still come and talk about these kind of projects. And so I'm no longer employed by Mennonite Housing, but they've provided an opportunity for me on a contract basis to still continue with property development activities, which was what I really enjoyed doing. And so projects like Phase 2 of Harvest Pointe is something that I'll continue to work with on. So as Rebecca said, we're here to make a request for both fee waivers and sales tax exemptions through issuance of IRBs. And there is the schedule that I think is in the packet that shows the scoring. You may have been able to look through that. And what I wanted to highlight there is that when we look at how this Phase 2 application could look and do the scoring, it could end up with a score of 92. And that is a very solid, good score. I think that competes very well with other applications that come in. If you look at the last couple years, a 92 would have been approved. And included in that 92, it does include 20 points that would be based on getting both the fee waiver commitment of $80,000 and then also having the sales tax exemption. Without either of those, and so each of those counts 10 points. That's how that 20 points comes up with. So if either of those are not approved, then that takes that score down into the 80s, and an 82, if only one of those were approved, an 82 would not have gotten approved. last year. And so I just want to make sure that the commission is aware of the way that works, and our job at Mennonite Housing as we work on these developments is to provide you with that information on how can we submit the strongest application possible. And so we feel like if we did get the commitment for both of those items, that we'd have a very strong application and have a good chance of being able to move forward with Phase 2. If we look at the current wait list for Harvest Pointe, it's just right around 100 names on the wait list. So we think the timing would be very good for this application to go in. We actually did submit the first step in the application for 2025. They require a preliminary application to be submitted January 10, and so last Friday we did submit that. And we'll wait to hear back from KHRC. Sometime in February, they'll let us know if we have an invitation to submit the full application. If we do have that opportunity, then that would go in May, and then they make award announcements in August. So that's the timeline we'd be looking at. And again, I think with the strong wait list that we have right now, it looks to us like it would be a very strong application and very much needed as we talk to residents here in the Newton community. So be happy to answer any questions that you've got.
Thank you, Byron.
So 82, if one of those, if only one of the 20,
Yeah.
that drops it to 82, and that's not,
That is, there's no guarantee that would be approved. Last year, I did see an application that scored 84, which did not get approved. So that's kind of that cutoff point that we believe we're probably looking at. And we feel like if we can put an application in that scores in the 90s, that's a very good chance of being approved, something in the 90s. That's not a definite cutoff from year to year, because it's all based on the total applications that come in and how strong each of them are. So that can vary a little bit, but that gives us at least a benchmark to go off of, is what has been approved and not approved over the last couple of years. So again, a 92 is a strong application. The need is there. We feel like, it's been a little over 3 years since Phase 1 was approved by KHRC. So we think the timing is really good, to go ahead and continue the development here. If the need continues to stay as strong as it does, we would probably not wait that long for Phase 3. Because to the extent that we can do a phase and keep the vacancy less than 5% for the 6-month period prior to when the application is due, then they'll accept another application. And so this last 6 months, Harvest Pointe vacancy was right around 3.5% to 4%. So it met that criteria. So that's, again, one of the reasons why we think the timing is really good now, looking at how it's performing currently. We only have 2 vacancies right now out of the 32 units. One should be filled tomorrow, and we look to fill the other one. So we've had a good track record of keeping the property full. Would love to continue and meet the need here, because we turn a lot of folks away. There's a lot of sad faces that when we tell them that, no, we're full and we don't have another phase, going yet, but we'd love to be able to tell them that we're ready to, continue on. And eventually there's room for 120 units out there, which we, feel good about being able to meet the need out there and having that come to fruition.
The people on your wait list, do you have a feel for, are they moving out of their homes and into your unit, out of homes in Newton, into do you have any feel for
Sure.
how those people are classified?
Yeah, no, we've done some checking on that, and we don't see many at all that are currently homeowners that are selling their home and moving to Harvest Pointe. we do see, we estimate about 90% of the residents at Harvest Pointe came from another rental in the Newton area.
Okay.
A few from Harvey County, but mainly Newton. Not that many outside of Harvey County. There are some that, they come in, they have family close by, come in from out of state to be closer to family, that kind of thing, but not a lot of those. So far, we're seeing mainly folks coming, other renters coming from the Newton area.
And still income qualifying?
Still income qualifying, yes, yeah. Household of two can have household income up to around $53,000, household of two. Household of one, around $46,000 is the max income that they'd be able to have.
Is that before they can move in, or is their rent adjusted for more income?
That's before they move in. We have to verify that income. And then we've got a tiered rent schedule based on if they fall within a 30% AMI category, 50, 60, or 80. So the numbers I gave you would be if, the max for those who qualify at the 80. And the rent rates can be as low as just under $300 for a one-bedroom if they're in that 30% category, up to around $900 if they're looking for a two-bedroom and they are in the 80% category. So there's a wide range to try to meet the different household incomes. We've seen a very large need in the 30% category. Now, it's tough to make a project work, that's mainly 30% because the rents are so much lower and it's tougher to cover all the expenses that are associated with it. So we can't really afford to set it up with a majority in the 30%, but it surprised us at just, what that need that we see in that category here.
If you were to do phase 2 and phase 3 at the same time, would the fee waivers just be $80,000 one time?
It would not be, we've looked at that to see if we could do that. There's a maximum amount that we can request from KHRC, and that's $850,000 of annual tax credits, and it would take more than the $850 to do 88 units. But we thought about that. How can we make this better, more feasible for the city? Can we just go ahead and put in a larger request here and just finish everything up in one phase? And the cost is too high to cover, and we would have had to go over the max. So we had to, at one time we were looking to do this in 4 phases, but we were able to get it down to 3, so 2 remaining phases at 44 to minimize the impact of the fee waivers.
Will we have a hard time getting up to $80,000 in fees?
Well, I have a question because, yes, building permit fees, if we're looking at 44 units, are not you're going to be around $24,000 for building permit fees. But then, because you list here, I just had a question on, you say commit to waive what would have been impact, utility, or other fees totaling at least that amount. And we might have, say, plan review fees,
Sure.
or there would be inspection fees
Yes.
for water, sewer, street extensions, where we would have for civil projects, the civil infrastructure. But even then, I think 40,000 is probably where we could get to at that point. And so my question is, would this be an up to 80,000? And or when you say utility, do you have an expectation for water meters to be purchased? Because water meters is, when we waive a fee, say for inspection, we have that person on staff already and we're paying them. And so we waive the fee that we would normally pass on. But for a water meter, we have to go purchase that product. And so we'd be looking at about $58,000 in water meters for 44 units. So just wanted to clarify.
Sure, yeah. And I do believe that what KHRC is looking for would be the commitment from the city for the $80,000, whether that is, and so if the fees that you're looking at don't come up to that, if there would be other ways to obtain a commitment, and I don't know whether you were including the cost of of the water meter, but if we included some of that also to say, hey, we can offset some of our costs to the extent of 80,000, most of which is fee waivers, I would really go to bat with KHRC to find out if that was something that you could commit to, even though it's not technically fee waivers, but they see that commitment to help with some of, say, infrastructure cost, that there might be an opportunity there. But I've posed that question. I'm still working through that with KHRC. What if fee waivers don't get up to the 80,000? Because we've had that come up in another community, and we're still working through that.
Our fees, our building permit fees are pretty mid-range for around here. And so I don't think you could get up to 80,000 on those fees. So it's going to be money out for us in this scenario.
Can you say something about your 30% tenants? Do you get subsidized by the state or federal government to make up for some of that?
No, we do not get subsidized. No, not with this project. The only income coming in to cover the cost would be the rent revenues that we charge. The only way that subsidies could come in would be if any of the residents have like their own Section 8 voucher that could help cover some of that rent cost. But we, as the property owner, the property does need, we have our rent set based on the different tiers, and we need to have that amount of money come in, whether it's directly from the resident or, like, again, if they have a Section 8 voucher, then we accept Section 8 vouchers. Now, we don't have any commitment from Public Housing Authority to get a site-based subsidy here. So we definitely would take, the tenant base that a resident might be able to bring. But that would, again, that would benefit the resident if they did have that. And many of our properties do, we do have Section 8 tenant-based subsidies where we get paid directly from public housing for those.
What is the maximum amount of rent that, say somebody was making $4,000 or $5,000 a year, one person, and what would their rent,
Yeah, someone that's just making a very small amount, one bedroom, $285, just under $300 a month.
Okay, but what would be the maximum?
Around
like,
900.
Is there a maximum amount?
Yeah, there's a maximum for someone that is in the 80% category that wants a two-bedroom, it'd be around $900. Yeah, that'd be the max. So, around 300 to 900 is the range.
You say you have like 100 or over 100 on a waiting list, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do those people already, do you know that they meet the criteria financially for this housing?
We're not 100% sure. We do have some preliminary income information. So generally, I'd say yes. But there could be some that that might be right around the maximum amount. That once we really get into the details of that calculation, that might kick them out. But for the most part, based on the information we get on our preliminary application, I'd say most of them are going to be okay and meet the income requirements.
So you do have a screening or preliminary?
Yes. Yeah, preliminary screening.
And do you, does their rent include utilities, or are they separate from the rent?
Separate. There's utilities on top of that. But these are built very energy efficient for us to meet the requirements of KHRC. Very, very, very energy efficient. So most residents that we have experience lower utility bills than what they're used to from where they were renting.
So each unit pays their own water, sewer, and
They'll pay electric and gas.
electric and gas?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then the property pays water, sewer, trash.
So most of us here on the commission remember when we did phase one and the request was for, I forget if it was $20,000 or $20,000. And we agreed to do that. And our understanding then was that that was for the entire development. So I know there's been, some struggle with Now there's an $80,000, and I know that's out of your control, but started at 20 or 25, now it's 80. That's a state thing, or this program criteria. But so I think the struggle is now the request is for 80 instead of the 20 or 25, and then another 80 for the third phase. So I know you have to understand that's kind of a struggle we have here with the request.
Do you think we can get to 40,000? That would be a 5-point award.
I think we can get to close to 40,000 with building permit fees, plan review fee, and then inspection fees. And that's just an estimate on what the fee would be for inspection on civil infrastructure projects. That's a really, really rough estimate. It would be right around 40,000. What's the value of the units? I mean, 170,000 roughly.
70, 200, somewhere in there.
Okay, so yeah, I think we can get to
We can get
40.
to 40.
just calculating fees.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you pointed out, Suzanne, it's one thing when we're offsetting an expense or a cost that we already have. It's another when we're having to go out and spend money in order to pass it through.
And please understand, we want you here. We want the housing. We need the housing.
We do.
So I don't think there's any dispute that we want you here.
I understand. I'm just trying to tell you the best way to get us here. I can't change the numbers.
Understand that too.
Just want you to understand that, and I think you do. I think you do.
Is that number on there, 20, the points, it says 80,000 fee waivers and sales tax exemption. So that's the combination of
Yes.
Yeah.
fee waivers and,
Yes, and that splits up half and half. So 10 of that 20 is for the 80,000 fee waivers, and the other 10 is for the sales tax exemption. Yeah,
Okay,
so we can get
that's-
10 of that with either one of those. But again, that drops us down into the
yeah.
80s.
So even if you got 40,000 in fee waivers, you'd still.
It's still going to be
need the sales-
tough.
You're still looking at wanting to.
Yeah, my message to the commission is, we really need the 20 to have a strong application. Now, I understand you have budgetary concerns. I understand that. My job is to let you know.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm doing. And then that's your.
What did you pay during 2024 for your 32 units for water, sewer, and trash, roughly?
Oh,
It's
How much?
it averages about $179 for each of the 2 units. There's
Okay.
22 of them,
So 16 times 172?
so it's,
You're talking utility costs,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. 2752, 27.
it's about $3,900 a month.
39. How much is it for each
It's
two
about
units?
$47,000 a year.
How much, 47?
That's for all utilities.
Yeah.
Question. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What's the period of time that you have for that $80,000 fee
you
to
know,
come to
they,
pass?
they don't give a time period, so I guess what I would say is, if you're thinking, can it be spread over 2 budget years?
Well, I was thinking, could it be spread over a year's time?
Yes, it
Trying to
can.
think outside of the box here.
Yes, it can.
For another option that would add to. We might, if it could be spread over a year's time, maybe we could add in and say we could provide trash pickup
Sure.
for those units and consider that cost and add that to the 40,000. I'm just trying to think of some other ways to
That's
come up
kind of
to
where
that
I set it.
80. I mean, that doesn't get us there, but I'm just asking the question, can it be span over a year's time?
I think, well, it definitely can be spanned over a year's time.
Are
Yeah,
you
definitely.
utilizing city trash service now? I don't recall.
I believe we are.
They are, okay. Okay.
I'm not positive about that. I guess what, are we? Okay, good, good.
give any weight
Utility costs
to that.
through November 30th, with including trash.
yeah.
We're already at $40,000, so we have an additional, we have an additional month that will go into that. I think we'll be over 45, based on what we've been seeing.
I took a bottom average of $179 a month per unit.
And even if there were some assistance for us on those costs to get us to the 80, it's definitely something we can research quickly with KHRC.
I don't know. I don't know that it gets us to the 80, but I was just trying to look at something that we're already there.
Well, we also
If-
have to look at phase
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
So we have to look at phase 3 because,
Yeah.
I mean, we were looking at phase 2 and 3 when we said yes to the original phase 1 obligation. So when we're deciding on what we're going to do for phase 2, we need to be thinking about what we're going to do for phase 3 right now.
Exactly.
Because, hindsight's 2020, we should have probably broke up the donation into 3 different donations so that you could have taken credit for that 3 different times instead of giving it to you once and you only get credit for it once.
Would have got smaller points. As it went down, would have got less points.
So I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we need to be thinking macro on this as well.
Exactly.
As this,
We need to be looking at the revenue we're going to get into, though.
right.
And just
Which is-
recognize what it takes anymore, as competitive as these applications are, to get them approved. That's where it's gotten to since
That's
we
why we
really
keep
first
listening to
started
you,
talking.
though, because we know, we do understand your toil, too.
So I've done my job then.
You have.
Thank you.
Even though you're not getting paid
Hey,
and you're
see,
retired.
this is part of my retirement plan. Some people think I'm crazy. I enjoy this.
So
Well-
timeline-wise, how much time? This is not a decision that we have to make
Right.
tonight?
Don't
That
need
We
it.
have some,
We have time. That's why I like, when Rebecca suggested coming in early here in January, I really like that, to give the commission time to work through this. The application is not due till middle of May. We don't want to wait that long, obviously, but we've got a little time to answer some of these questions and see if there's a way to make this work.
So, from your perspective, we can do our own analytics, but from your perspective, what is our ROI on the $80,000 for the next 2 phases? How would you respond to that? How do us as a city, us as citizens?
Well, I guess I'm not initially going to respond financially, but I see the residents that we're not serving. And that's to me one of the biggest considerations, is there's such a need out there that we can meet, and we can help the city increase housing stock here on a rental basis, not home ownership. But we just see every day, that wait list and the need that we're not able to meet. And, we're providing new, highly energy efficient units that most residents are really very pleased to move in and surprised at what their conditions are. With Harvest Pointe, that's the first time we started including garages. So they got single car garages, they've got a safe room, and clubhouse with a lot of amenities.
And the minimum age is 55?
Yes. Yes.
You're too old, Leroy?
Why did you have to say that now?
I'd say, let's sit down and look at some numbers and project our return on investment, how long it'll take us to recover.
And I think there is a financial side that I didn't speak to, but to the extent of the additional utilities and the revenues that you are receiving, and then another 44 units, additional revenues coming in, there is going to be a financial benefit
32
to the
is
city.
47, then 44 will be 25% more. So, we need to look at that. So if we can break even in 2 years and still provide housing,
That's not pure revenue. We're paying for water, we're paying for chemicals, we're paying for wages. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's true.
Yeah.
it's not just pure money given
right.
to us.
Yeah,
Right.
You know,
yeah.
you have to, so it might take longer to recoup.
Yeah, well, you guys know what our profit per gallon or cost per gallon might be. You know, I like to look at numbers and,
Yeah, let's see how creative we can get on impact and utility and other fees and see how that looks. So,
I do want to point out something else. Do you want me to go up there?
yes.
yes, please.
So people at home can hear you.
A couple things I do want to point out is the potential for you to spread out those waivers over multiple fiscal years for you guys. This project takes a while for us to complete, so I don't know if that makes it easier for you to swallow because you might be able to spread it over 2 fiscal years for your budget. The other thing is whenever Kansas Housing Resource Committee Corporation puts out the QAP, they always ask people to contribute to that. And one of the things that Byron lobbied for very heavily this last year is that a commitment this size for smaller rural communities is very difficult. His point was not one, but we will continue to do that. So there's a potential that Phase 3 may have less waivers required. We will continue to lobby for that because we do understand the kind of impact that has on the city. But just those are a couple things I also just want you guys to consider as you're thinking through that.
I have one more thing I just wanted to add to and please, you guys would know this better than I will, but if my memory serves correctly, in that QAP, our zip code actually loses 10 points on the application. Is that still valid?
That isn't really lost because there's 2 categories that you can get one of each of those. And so because of the zip code, because there was an application approved last year, yeah, we don't get those points, but because this is a subsequent phase, that replaces those 10. You can't get both of those. You
Okay.
can't get 20, you can go get 10, you can get it either way. And so we're getting, we're getting those 10 points,
Okay.
just a different way.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. And then following up on Angie's point, yes, we did make a request for KHRC to lower that 80,000 back to where it used to be. They did say no for this year, but they left the door open that they would still consider that because they hear this from other rural areas. So it may change, and that would be great. And we're going to, as Angie said, we're going to continue to talk with them about that.
Good discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Byron. Thank you, Angie. All right, next item is to consider grant funding for Sand Creek Bike Path Extension. Suzanne?
Yes, Commissioners, early last year, staff submitted for a transportation alternatives, it's called a TA program grant, through the state, actually it was through the bipartisan infrastructure law, and it was for a bike path extension along Sand Creek. This is kind of the gap that we have on Sand Creek, from the dam just south of First Street down to Southwest 14th Street. And that would be going underneath Railroad Trestle, along Sand Creek, crossing Sand Creek, down by the wetlands, and it would fill that gap in. You can see it in blue on the screen here. We submitted for this and went through a pretty rigorous process. We were selected to submit a application. You all approved a resolution of support at in a May meeting last year. Unfortunately, we did not receive the grant. But then on December 23rd, we got a phone call from the Department of Transportation, the Kansas Department of Transportation, and they reached out regarding our project and offered funding through another grant program, and it's called the Carbon Reduction Program. And there are federal grants that you can receive through the state. The state has this available. The difference is the first application that we had was 100% funded through that grant. This program is an 80-20 match, with 20% needing to be funded by the local agency. And that's only, that's an 80-20 match, 80%'s paid for those eligible items. There's still some ineligible items like right-of-way and utilities, those kind of things. This project has been on our long-term capital improvement plan for many years. In fact, we applied for some transportation enhancement funds back in 2007 to make this connection. We have heard from many different individuals in the community. They definitely support our pathway system. There are bicyclists, walkers, people that support the wetlands. This kind of touches all of those. And as you know, we've looked at these quality of life items recently, and Daniela and Rebecca mentioned some of that in the strategic plan. You know, we finished library projects, done some ball field improvements, did swimming pool improvements, and pathways extensions is one of those items that ranked very high on some of the community surveys. In fact, I believe 68% of the respondents were in favor of more walking, biking trails. And in that survey, 50% said they'd be willing to pay more taxes and fees for those improvements. This project would be pretty big. I mean, this is a big project. We would need to be working with the railroad and get their approval to cross their property. We are going to have to acquire right-of-way from the railroad and from the county. The county owns the piece right on kind of the corner there where Boyd Street Channel comes in. This is a lot of pavement that would go down. We'd expect it to be a 10-foot wide walk. It would be ADA accessible, and we'd need to cross over the Boyd Street Channel with a footbridge. We would need to have some retaining walls put in and cross over Sand Creek. I mean, there's a lot of things to this, and we have an estimate that is pre-designed. This project is not designed, but we have an estimate of what we think the project would be close to, around $3.6 million, about $3,640,000. And so the grant would cover approximately $2.9 million of that, leaving the city to fund about $728,000 of that, which seems like a very big number, but we're bringing it to you because it's very unusual that we would have a funding agency contact us and say, hey, would you like, you know, $2.93 million, especially for a project that's been on our capital improvement project. And so we just wanted to see what you thought about this. The problem is they're needing an answer by tomorrow. Remembering that we heard about this on December 23rd, and we haven't had meetings, we had holidays and all of those things. And I think they're trying to, you know, fill in some gaps on some projects and some grant funds that they have available. So Dawn and I have talked about it too. We would expect that this would be a project that would probably be bonded, and it would be 20-year bonds. So you'd be looking at an annual payment, if you want to boil it down to annual dollars, of $57,000 a year to pay for the debt service payments on this project. And it'd be paid out of general fund.
That's a 20-year bond?
Yes. If you would like to move forward with this project, we would ask that you give us the approval to do that, and then approve staff signing all the grant documents, because I don't have any of that yet. They're just waiting to hear, are we in favor of it?
Can we counter 90-10?
I wish. Yeah, I wish. Honestly,
tell them they have a buyer.
I was really surprised that when we got the phone call on this, but that tells me they thought that our project was a good project. And this is, like I've mentioned, there's multiple little specialty items in this project. We're gonna have to hire a consultant that's gonna come in and look at the design, and it would be a similar process. Remember when, some of you were on the commission when we did the bank improvements along Sand Creek, you know, through town. This is gonna be a similar project, because we're gonna have to sneak that thing along Sand Creek to get under the railroad trestle. We're going to have some big discussions with BNSF. And I think there might be another picture. There was a picture in the packet. Yeah, the expectation would be that the pathway would have to have a covering over it as it went under the trestle, because there would be concern. Many years ago, when we looked at this application in 2007, I spoke with some of the local BNSF staff at that time. And we talked about the fact there would need to be a covering over the pathway, because you may have things that shake off of the train and you don't want somebody to get knocked in the head, you know. This is not uncommon. These pictures that I'm showing you, especially the one on the bottom, and it's a little bit harder to see the structure that goes over the pathway, but that's a BNSF train engine. And I know on other projects around the nation, they have allowed this, but every scenario is different. So we'd be having to reach out to them in this process and many others.
So then, let's say that we did give the approval and we started reaching out to BNSF, and all of a sudden there's a roadblock 3 months from now that we didn't know about. Then what? Are we still committed to doing this?
No, because we have to be able to get the right of way and all of that.
And
so.
then if we would give the affirmative tonight, then does that mean that's set in stone and we can't come back in 45 days with buyer's remorse and say, no, we don't want to?
Well, once we sign the grant agreement, we're kind of in. Now, granted, we don't have a grant agreement, and I was asking for you to give approval, but we could bring that grant agreement back to you.
I have a question. So this pre-design project estimate of 3.6 million, when was that? Because we've experienced
We've done some
skyrocketing
updates.
prices.
No, we've done some updates to it.
So these numbers are quasi-current?
I don't know if they're
forecast?
2025 current, but they're 2023, 2024.
Current reality,
Yeah,
not 2007 numbers.
yeah. No, they're not 2007.
Probably also depends, I mean, we could bid it in December, right?
Yeah.
Better.
We would need to be strategic about our bidding, yes.
Well, do you foresee BNSF being a problem? I mean, what if they would just say absolutely not? Then, that's the only thing I'm thinking of.
Well, at that point, then we would talk to the state at that point. We wouldn't be,
Did we apply, we applied for this grant, right?
no, we applied for a different grant, and then the state called and said,
Yeah,
hey,
that's what I was thinking.
you would qualify. Here, we're offering this to you. Are you interested?
So it may be an opportunity that we don't get ever again.
This is unique. I will tell you that.
Well, they've built in enough time because they're not even looking for a bid letting until September 26th.
Right. I asked that question.
Oh.
How long do we have to make this happen? Knowing that we'll have some
Right.
hurdles throughout this process.
Well, I
Well-
think it looks good.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for us to say, yeah, we'll just pay another $57,000 a year, it's no big deal. Well, but it is a big deal, because, we're gonna have some budget challenges this year like we do every year. But I also know it's our job for the 5 of us to be visionary enough to look ahead 5, 10, 15 years from now. And I know how people talk about our bike path now along Sand Creek and what a gem we have. And somebody had the foresight to do that many years ago. And so I think we need to have that foresight too of this truly would be an asset to this community.
Yeah.
I firmly believe in that.
The 57,000 a year, for how many years was that?
20.
20.
20, oh.
And I would say if we don't want to move forward with the project, again, your decision. But if we don't want to move forward with the project, I would say then we should pull it off of our capital improvement list and not worry about it and think about it for future, because
But we asked
it's
the
very seldom you're going to have
Yeah.
80% of a project paid for.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
it was on that survey.
It was on the survey,
And
and
our
it was
citizens
supported.
said,
Right.
50% of them said that they would be
Yeah.
willing to pay a little more.
It closes the loop. I mean, it really is that extension that we've been waiting for.
Don't disagree.
And I don't like being squeezed into making a decision.
I
And
know, and
Deadline tomorrow.
I know, we didn't
Yippee.
have another meeting to be able to bring it to you. And we could say, hey, please, can we have an extension? I have a feeling they have a deadline as well.
Yeah.
Growth takes, you have to take risks to grow. So sometimes,
I won't feel any different about it in 2 weeks.
Right.
So what do you need?
We would need a motion of support to grant staff.
a second.
Is that a motion, Kathy, or
Well, I was
you were just asking?
I was asking what we would,
Right.
what we
Oh.
need. She said do you need a motion? Okay.
Motion maybe to approve or to go forward with the grant agreement subject to the approval of the city engineer, city manager, and city attorney review.
Yeah.
We can bring it back to you as soon as we can, but at least I can get the steps going in terms of receiving it and moving it forward.
I make a motion for that.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion carries. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Next item this evening is to consider a letter. Sure? I thought you were.
You're good. I got
Okay.
it.
Consider a letter outlining the city's position related to the sale of Building V at the airport. Chris?
Right, and we've done a few items with Building V lately. As you recall, as with all properties at the airport, the city and county jointly own the land. The city had previously owned Building V. We had sold it to that LLC, 620 LLC. As you recall, the city maintained a second mortgage interest in the property. A few months back, Emprise bought us out of that second mortgage. We're now at the point where Emprise and the owner are looking to sell it, to auction it, and they've requested what's kind of known as a comfort letter or a position letter from the city and county to basically say that, hey, if the sale goes through, you'll, be supportive and allow that to happen. So that's what this letter does. It signals that we're open for business. We don't see any reasons to deny it, but we go short to simply approving it in advance, not knowing the terms or who the owner is, because there's still that procedural requirement where the city and county are going to have to approve it. It's good faith, it's non-binding, but we want to signal again, we want to be a partner in this. We want to get it where it's occupied and it's used, and that's what this letter accomplishes. It's been approved by the county already. It's set for the mayor's signature, and I would stand for any questions on it. The bank council's reviewed it, and he understands this is as far as we can go, given the situation.
I would move that we authorize the mayor to sign the letter of support.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Hearing none, that motion carries. Next item is sale of Mennonite Press Building to Avcon. Chris?
There's another airport item, and same kind of ground rules. The city and county jointly own the land. The building is privately owned here by Mennonite Press. They've got a pending sale to Avcon Industries. So there's two documents in the packet. You've got one, a development agreement, and this would not involve the county, but it would be with the city and Avcon. And then two, you've got a document that essentially facilitates the transfer of the ground lease, because obviously Mennonite Press is the holder, is the tenant right now. They would then transfer that to Avcon. And then also the city has a right of first refusal on the improvement. And what we want to do is decline that. We want to say that your sale can go through because the city's not looking to purchase this building. So those are the two documents. On the development agreement, it does provide for a tiered property tax abatement of 75% year one, 50% year two, and 25% year three. In exchange for that benefit, Avcon agrees to, one, purchase the building, two, make improvements of greater than $200,000, three, equip the facility to a certain degree, and then to create new jobs, which are estimated to be 10 full-time employees. So we would ask for separate motions. I would stand for any questions, but one would be to approve that development agreement, and then the second would be to approve that second document. I would stand for any questions on that.
I move we consider the development agreement with Avcon Industries.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
I would move that we approve the restatement of the lease and not exercise our right of first purchase.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Kathy. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item would be the citizens forum, and nobody signed up for that. Was there an executive session, Chris?
We do have one.
That was Rod's motion. Yep. I move that the city commission recess into executive session to conduct discussions with legal counsel. The justification for closing the meeting is to consult with city attorney to discuss matters privileged under the attorney-client relationship. Time and place at which the open meeting shall resume is 8:20 p.m. right here in city commission chambers. You guys don't have to stay. We do not plan on taking any action. Do I have a second?
I second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.